Hello and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are your hosts, Chris and Philly, co-founders of a multi-award-winning functional medicine practice, serving busy people with energy, mood, and gut issues.
While busyness, addictive doing, people-pleasing, and perfectionism might be the norm, it's not normal, and it's a major contributor to health issues.
Our goal with this show is to give you a holistic root cause approach to healing your body so that you don't have to continue doctor or diet hopping or popping a gazillion supplements hoping something might stick.
So get ready to heal your body, get your spark back, deeply connect with yourself, and step into the life of your dreams.
Let's dive in.
Hello, wonderfuls. Welcome to the potty today. You are in for a treat today. Before we get started, announcement time. Tonight is our Brisbane book party. So if you're in Brisbane or Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, somewhere in between, and you are free tonight, come along to Scrumptious Reads in the suburb Red Hill, which is very close to Brisbane City. And Chris and I are going to be having a book party as part of our book tour for the launch of our book, Ending Body Burnout. I'm going to be in conversation with the amazing Lainey Oldfield. She was actually on our podcast last year. She has a business which is all about stacked whole foods, nutrition, food as medicine. She is a brilliant woman and she's going to bring some energy and some wisdom to the event. We'll also have some brain retraining, nervous system practices happening. We're going to have laughs and fun, and there's going to be food and refreshments, and it's going to be so fun. So if you want to come along, get inspired about ending your body burnout, the steps to take to do that, to find your spark, and also know that you will leave the night feeling energized, then we have some spaces left. So you can go to the link below the show notes and RSVP for that. And the other thing too is next month we have quite a few, 5 actually, free events or low-cost events that we're putting on. The one that I want to mention today is a 3-day live training, which is all about stress burnout and why your gut protocol isn't working. That is completely free. I think it starts on the 22nd-ish of May. And we would love you to attend. And if you want to learn more about that, again, head to the show notes and I'll put the link there for you to register for that. Okay, so today I am talking to the gorgeous life coach, Lisa Corduff, who is a woman who wears many hats. She is an inspiration. When I first came across Lisa on socials, I was so drawn into her realness. She is raw and honest and messy and wholeheartedly leaning into life and all its challenges. She's a successful businesswoman, has created amazing online business and courses that are going gangbusters and have for the past decade. She was married to a beautiful man, Nick, who was an alcoholic in and out of rehab while also juggling a business and mothering. And as we chat, you'll discover that in 2019, Nick passed away. And so not only was she navigating the juggle of life, but now she was left single mummying and protecting her children and trying to work through her own grief as well. So you are in for a treat, she says, very honestly, very vulnerably, and she is a source of inspiration. I actually went on a girls' weekend with my mum and sisters to Manly back in March, and we were sitting at the table. We went out for dinner and my sister grabbed, some random questions. She's like, questions to ask at a dinner table. One of the questions was, who is someone that you really look up to or who you find really inspirational? And straight up, I said, Lisa. She is really cool. She's also, if you read my book, Ending Body Burnout, so remember we're doing a book launch party tonight in Brisbane. She actually wrote the foreword for my book, and she wrote the most perfect words to the start of my book. When I got the email back from her and read her foreword, I was literally in tears. It was perfect. It was exactly what I wanted the start of the book to capture. And so that this is the lady behind the words. Okay, so official bio, Lisa Corduff has built an online business helping women get unstuck and upgrade their lives in simple yet powerful ways. She is a solo mum of 3, and she's all about avoiding the perfectionism and overwhelm that can so easily keep us trapped. She is a powerful storyteller, and she shares her journey through grief in a captivating and inspiring way. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive in to my conversation with Lisa. Lisa, I'm so excited to have you on our podcast. We were just saying before we hit record, this is actually the first time we've spoken in real Zoom live.
Which is ridiculous because I'm like, we're friends. We know each other.
Yeah. It's like Insta DMs, voicemails. Yeah. Sorry, I'm so excited. I know our listeners are going to get so much out of this conversation, and so much that you talk about and that you do, and the way that you work with other women so aligns with what we do too. Burnout, busyness, overwhelm, all the things.
All of it.
Life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think that's why I love what you do. I remember seeing you first sort of appear on the scene thinking, oh, thank God someone's talking about it in this way, because I hadn't really seen it before. So I absolutely love what you do, which you know.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to just dive straight into the personal stuff.
Yep.
Into your own body burnout story. When was it? What was happening? Give us all the juice.
Well, it's funny because I actually think that there's been a few, probably like most people, especially like, yeah, right. I mean, I remember getting pneumonia in my 20s and being like, what's this thing that's happening to my body? Ignoring it completely, moving straight along, it's crazy. Anyway, but the one moment that I really had that actually I stopped and I paid attention to, I was like, okay, this is no joke. My body is going back up, Lisa. It was 2017. So, and life was kind of blowing up. So I'm not too sure. People won't know my story, but my husband at the time he'd been off work for a little while. Things were unraveling for him, and his dependence on alcohol was becoming a really big problem. It was uncontainable anymore. And it was July, I think 2017, that we were living in Brisbane. I had 3 kids. They were little. And 2 weren't in school and 1 was in grade 1. And he had to go to rehab. So it was like, this thing simmering under the surface. It was an issue, but it was suddenly like front and center. I was running my own business and I had become the breadwinner for our family. And I had 3 little kids and we were up in Brisbane without any family support at all. So I decided in that moment, okay, we've entered a different phase and I need to move us down to Melbourne where both our families are. And I mean, the period of, I think it was 3.5 weeks that he was in there, I did a trip to America. I was in a business mastermind, so I went and did that. Literally the day after he went into rehab, no, the day of he went into rehab, I jumped on a train down to the Gold Coast to run a retreat for business women.
Yeah.
My mum had flown up and we packed up our house. Mum and dad were amazing at that time. I removed the kids from all their, like, a family daycare, kinder, school, said goodbye to all our friends that we'd maybe been living there for 5 years and moved us down to Melbourne. And I was like, whew, okay, phew, we're here. but that's not the, like, then I had to find a place to live. Nick went into a rehab down in Melbourne. So he was not available, and I had to get a kid into school, one into kinder, one into daycare. We had to decide where we were living in Melbourne, get all utilities set up, do all the things. I was running live events. Like, I ran an event with Jude Blareau in Melbourne. I was running the business. It was just all like, it was so on. And I remember there was a moment when I went to the family and friends night at the rehab that he was in Melbourne. And this guy, I was the only one there. And I was like, okay, this is awkward. And so I had the attention of this guy at the front of the room. And he's just like, how are you, Lisa? And I said, oh, look, it's just a really big relief that Nick is here. He's getting the help that he needs. You know, it's great. And he's like, yeah, no, I was just sort of, so how are you? And I said, well, look, you know, the kids are a bit unsettled because it's been a really big time. So I'm just really focused on just calming everything right down for them. I'm finding a house. And he's like, Lisa, how are you? And I just started crying. I hadn't thought about how I was. I didn't even think, it wasn't even on my radar for me to have needs, for me to be feeling anything. It was just all out. It was all just taking care of everyone else. I was high functioning. I had completely lost touch with Lisa, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's okay for that to happen, but there's a cost, right?
Yeah.
So I get everyone sort of, we find a house, we move in, I'm, you know, playing uniforms, and like, it was full on. And then maybe a month later, I thought I had school sores on my face. And I went to the doctor and I said, I've got school sores. And he said, no, you don't. You've got shingles. I was like, shingles? What do you mean? Oh, is that why I'm just absolutely exhausted? And he's like, maybe. And he said, Lisa, and I just explained what had been going on. He's like, I mean, this could be your body just telling you enough's enough. And I do just want to tell you that other viruses love jumping on the back of shingles. Chronic fatigue loves it. Glandular fever loves it. Like, so just really be careful. If you don't rest now and let your body heal, the likelihood of something else appearing is high. So just wanted to let you know, I'm like, I don't have the chance to rest. And thought, like, that's not even, who rests when there's so much to do? Everything's on me. That was my story at the time. Like, everything's on me. I don't have time for this. And so I really sat with that. I was out for 2 weeks. It really just knocked me sideways. I thought a lot about how I had been telling myself certain things weren't possible for me. I had this beautiful, amazing body that was getting myself and my family through this thing, and I had neglected it completely. This is also at the same time as running a business around teaching women about whole foods and all of that sort of stuff. So I wasn't eating badly. It wasn't like my lifestyle was crazy. It was that the load was too much. I was unable to see that I could not continue functioning in the way that I was functioning. And so I made some changes. And one of the biggest things that I did at that time, I think it really served me, because the next few years of Nick in and out of rehab and riding that recovery roller coaster, and then ultimately and very unfortunately his death in September 2019, was that I decided I had to start to take care of myself. And I still didn't have a load of capacity. And this is why I talk to women about this all the time. And right now I'm solo parenting my kids and running a business. And yet I have completely revamped the expectations that I have for myself and what I focus on in my life. And I remember I would wake up in the morning and I'd check in with myself and I would say, what does Lisa need today to feel good? It wouldn't have to be much. it was like this gentle, just moving myself in the direction of just checking back in with me. What actually do I need? And sometimes it would just be sitting by myself and just having a coffee on my own at the cafe, just doing that for myself. Sometimes it would be going for a walk. Sometimes I'd think I really want to call my best friend and just speak to her. I need to just carve out half an hour for that. Smallest things. It was not a big, huge, crazy thing that I did, but I started to honor myself, what I was needing, instead of making life about everyone else all the time. Addiction consumed my life. And this was just a lovely way for me. And so I could go, oh, you know what I am? I'm really tired. And I wouldn't even be able to acknowledge that before. And so I'd think, I just need to have a bath, or I just need to go to bed early. That's what I really need. And that was kind of, it felt like, I look back now and I think it was really a revolution in my life, because it started to connect me back into myself after a period of just absolutely not being connected.
Yeah. It's so interesting. There was so many bits and pieces I want to pull out of that. It's interesting. Well, first of all, the body is amazing. The body is amazing for giving us very strong signals when we're not listening to ourselves or when we're disconnected. So it's like shingles or whatever it is. For some people, it's chronic fatigue, severe bloating. Sometimes it's emotional, mental as well, anxiety, whatever it is. And it's super interesting too. Do you find now, I'm kind of like jumping all over the place. Do you find now that there's more subtle ways that your body talks to you? It
Yes.
doesn't have to get to the point where it's like shingles, chronic fatigue.
I don't even, I can't really remember. Probably COVID a few years ago, it was the last time I was really sick.
Mm.
I am so good at noticing what my body needs now. So my glands go up a little bit at the back, and I'll just sort of, I'm just, look, I think a part of the benefit of those COVID years, especially here in Melbourne when we really couldn't do much, was it really reset in terms of, there were a lot of demands on us. Obviously, as someone who had kids at home and was trying to work and all of that stuff, it was not fun. But there was also no extra things to do. So it was like we found a new set point, like, oh, this is what it feels like to not be. I mean, we were all exhausted because it was just freaking exhausting, the whole monotony of it. But it wasn't in the way of like, it's been a massive weekend, I'm exhausted, or I've got to get here. Mum needs this done. I've got to get to Bunnings to get the thing. And then that's before he's got to be in soccer at bloody an hour away. And do you know, like, there's just a franticness to it all that disappeared. And I think a big part of 2022 for me and for a lot of my friends was like this hangover effect of that. Like, why aren't we kicking back into gear? Where did it go? It's like our bodies were like, no, actually, now we know when we're gone too far. Whereas I think before that, we hadn't even recognized we were asking too much of ourselves. But suddenly you're asked to do that again after this extended period of not being able to. And my body is so clear with me. I love it. It's like, oh, here we are. And now we know what to do.
Yes. In the past, when I struggled to learn to listen to myself or didn't know how, it was usually like full on histamine intolerance and flare ups. Now it's just like, usually would be like a bit of tightness in the chest or a little bit of tension in the diaphragm or underneath. And I'm like, that's my subtle signal. What do you need, body? What do you need, unconscious mind?
Yep. And it's really amazing. And so often for me, it is just rest. Like, I mean, sleep is like my number one friend. I really prioritize resting. Like, how do you rest? How do you do that? I'm like, well,
Lie
I don't
down.
know. Like
Lie
you can go to bed and have a little lie down. And I tell the kids now, I mean, they're at an age where I can be like, oh, see ya. Mum's going for an hour. Don't anyone talk to me
Yeah.
on the weekends. It's amazing.
Yeah. Talking about sleep. So in my book, for anyone watching on YouTube, ooh, Lisa is do you call it forward or forward?
Forward, but it's
Oh,
spelled.
see, I was the first. I've always been saying forward. Lisa wrote the forward.
Oh, that's what I said. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm not the expert on this.
I think I'm wrong because I was talking to my sister who's very clever with words and she's like, you're saying it wrong. Okay, that's awkward.
Believe
But
her.
talking about sleep, so in my book, I have referenced a survey that you did, I think, back in 2022.
2022, yeah.
Yeah. Over 1,400 women took this survey, which is also just a phenomenal feat. And there was a lot of stuff. What was it titled? Sleep, sex, energy, and more. Is that right?
Stress, sleep,
Stress.
yeah,
Okay.
and
So
more.
there were some interesting things both about energy and sleep. So with sleep, 7 out of 10, I'm just reading my notes. 7 out of 10 women said that they know what would improve their sleep. 10.2% said it was impossible to improve their sleep at this time.
Mm.
And also 46.6% of women who are said that they might do the things to improve their sleep.
Right.
I am also someone who I like sleep, highest value, biggest priority, because I know that I'm dragon mum and like that's really when my body will start breaking down if I don't get sleep. So what else did you discover in that survey, or why did you also run it? And yeah, can you talk a bit more about sleep?
Yeah. So I mean, I was just really curious about where women were at that stage of 2022. I was certainly not thriving.
Mm,
And I kept hearing everyone saying the same sorts of things. So I thought, well, let's get some data around this. Let's just see what's going on. And I cried regularly as those results were coming in because
mm,
it doesn't paint a very good picture for us. The questions that I had around sleep, and what I think is really interesting about sleep is, um, I think that we have normalized being tired.
mm,
I think that that is the narrative that most women have is I'm exhausted, busy,
yeah.
so overwhelmed. And they're not lying, but it's also like we we can do things about this.
Mm,
We don't have to. And I think that that's the thing about the 10% of people, I don't know, maybe they're menopausal and they are just their sleep's just gone right off and they've tried all sorts of different things.
mm,
Maybe people who do struggle with insomnia, anxiety at nighttime, and they might have tried a whole heap of things and they're just like, I can't do anything about this, or I do shift work. And
mm,
there is always absolutely going to be that group of people. Uh, and then and then there's this big chunk who are like, yeah, I know what I could do. Most likely not going to do it. And I think that they're probably the women who are like, I work so hard and I just want hours to myself of quiet at night.
yeah.
And and stop it. Like I'm allowed to have that. But then they wake up the next morning regretting it, wishing that they'd just gone to sleep because they're not functioning very well in their daily life. Or they're people who are binge watching shows or they can't stop the scroll at
Mm,
nighttime. And so they're like, yes, I know, I just need to turn off my phone. I need to do it. But I know myself too well. I'm not going to do that.
mm,
Maybe they know that not having those 2 glasses of wine each night that they know affects their sleep, they just know themselves and they're just saying, I'm not gonna not have the wine. I look forward to the wine. The wine is a lovely part of my evening. It
mm,
helps me get through. There's all sorts of reasons we create for ourselves to justify unhealthy or dysfunctional behavior. Like we
mm,
all do it. I'm
mm.
very good at it. And yet it doesn't serve us.
Yeah.
And so I think that that group of women value something higher than sleep at this particular stage of their lives, or have tried to change habits and they haven't been able to make them stick, so they don't believe themselves that they would be able to actually change their sleep hygiene and their sleep routine and feel like I've had people being like, are you saying, Lisa, that you wake up in the morning feeling refreshed? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, isn't that how we're meant to feel?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, literally no one does. You wake up, you wake up before your alarm? I'm like, yeah, most times. And it's a foreign concept to most people.
Mm.
But
Mm.
I look at my kids. I have always been pretty strict on sleep. Like it's kids that aren't well slept, I don't really like hanging out with them. They're 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 annoying. And kids that are well slept are such better company, right? Like we can
Yeah.
do cool stuff.
Yeah.
We're totally at the stage of all the sleepovers and stuff. And I feel like our weekends now are just like just trying to get through the day to get them into sleep so that they can be okay again the next
Oh
day.
yeah, rotten little kids after sleepovers.
Oh my God. And I just keep looking at them and just thinking, well, I'm a human too.
Mm.
I, I'm also not my best self when I'm tired. And I
Mm.
think as a solo parent, it became so obvious to me. I am the captain of this ship. And when I'm tired, everyone knows I am not like I'm eating foods to help me get through. I'm cranky at them. I have lower tolerance for all the noise.
Mm.
I don't want to be that kind of person.
Mm.
So for me, in the life that I lead, which is running my own business, parenting my kids on my own, running this house on my own, I just don't have time to be tired. So I prioritize sleep because everything feels better
Yeah.
when I do.
Yeah. 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 Awesome. Sometimes I think it's about stacking up the pain too. It's like, okay, well, if the wine, for example, is more important than sleep because it feels nice in the moment and it's regulating my nervous system or, whatever, it's a nice little treat. But then you look at waking up exhausted and how you perform or feel throughout the day and maybe the impact that you're having on other people. Sometimes people forget when they get to that time to have the wine or watch Netflix or scroll through the phone, just kind of how painful life was during the day.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. But there's that. I remember talking about reverse bedtime procrastination. And it really is like we play games with ourselves, don't we? We're like, I deserve this.
I deserve this. Yes.
Yeah.
I definitely, yeah. Okay. I do actually quite enjoy watching Netflix at night.
So do
Never,
I.
never really been the binger. But it's very interesting. I've done some experiments with myself. If I've had a day where my cup is empty because I've been giving, whether it's to clients or children or just housework or marketing or whatever it is, and I go to bed resentful, I will watch that Netflix, but it will affect my sleep. Whereas
Wow.
on other days when it's just like, this feels like a nice day, I'm in alignment, I'm still doing the things that I need to do in order for business and family to function. But, I've peppered in times for myself.
Mm.
I'll watch Netflix and it's like the most enjoyable experience. And I'll go to sleep and I sleep great and I wake up refreshed.
Wow. There's something in that.
There's something in that. Don't know scientifically. I'll do some more thinking on that. But very interesting. So when you said exhaustion is just what people think is normal, another stat that came from your survey was 98.2% of women never feel fully rested, which
Yeah.
just like,
What the hell?
wow,
I know, right?
crazy, crazy, crazy. So what do you think? Why do you think women are so burnt out? Like, what do you think is the deepest root cause happening here?
I think that there's a few different ones. I've actually created an overwhelm type quiz because I think that there's different reasons. Like we're different people, and it's not always just that there's a lot on. I think that is absolutely the truth for most women that I know, which is just the mental, domestic, emotional load of being a woman these days. I think unequal division in households is a massive, massive problem. Still think it's falling on women. We know it is because the statistics tell us it is. It is tiring to be a woman in the world at the moment, especially if you've got children. But then there's all these, I mean, I've worked with women for 10 years, over 10 years. I've been a part of communities. I hear the same things over and over again. And it's forced me to look at this in my own life too. You know, there's some people who have such high standards for themselves. You know, they are working harder and life feels harder than it needs to because they have these, you know, the perfectionist type tendencies of they really want to be knocking it out of the park in all areas of their life.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I totally know people like this. I've seen and coached women like this. It's like, what would it be like if you just sort of let yourself drop that ball for a little while? What if it was okay if, you know, if the kids started to put their own clothes away and it wasn't really tidy in their wardrobes, and you just sort of let that be okay for a while? Oh my God, I couldn't. Oh. And it's like, well, no, it's okay if you like that level of order and structure. And, you know, it's never about telling people exactly what to do, but just like pay attention to where maybe you're adding to your load because of your expectations for what your life should look like, what your body should look like, what parenting should look like, what your house should look like, what work-life balance should look like. What? Just hang on, take it all back a notch. But then there's the people who, you know, don't really care that much about that stuff. That's not their underlying issue. It's more that they literally can't say no. So, you know, the people who are givers and they like giving and they get a lot of self-worth from being someone who can be there for others, who is contributing and volunteering and taking it on and saying, yes, come over, and yes, we'll be there, and all the things. Their kids are involved in all of the stuff and they're wrecked. They haven't thought about themselves or maybe even put themselves on the little agenda for their week because it's just about everybody else, and they get resentful even about it, but they don't even know that they have the choice to say no. Like, do you see what I mean? Like there's I think that there's different types of people, and where we're unknowingly adding to our load when we don't need to, because it's enough just to be doing life, I feel, at the moment. So, yeah, I think people can go and do that quiz.
The quiz. I actually did it earlier today.
What did you get?
I was the organizer.
Right.
So what was it? When you're in full power, you're a natural organizer. I'm like, yes, that's right. When overwhelm strikes, you can tip into becoming a busy bee, which is so funny, guys. Like our podcast is ending body burnout for busy people. My mess is my message.
We teach what we need to learn. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What was yours? Or what is yours?
Well, I don't know, because I know them all so well. I think sometimes pillar. So, you know, I'm the person that people, like I'm holding it together for a lot of different things. And so that's fine until it's really not, until overwhelm kicks in and I'm like, go away. I don't want to have any responsibilities whatsoever. I'm going to live on an island somewhere and no one can talk to me. Like, yeah, I have, you know, in my life, I guess where I found myself is, captain, and there's no one, you know, next to me really helping me captain the ships, you know, the business and the and my family. And so sometimes I'm totally exhilarated by that, and it's where I actually need to be. It's who I am. But as soon as, like, God, it's even been this week. I just was thinking, there's just some stuff going on with one of my kids. I'm like, you're not doing enough. What else could we be doing? You're letting the team down.
Yeah.
And then my, I don't even check my mail. Like, I'm pretty bad. I got diagnosed ADHD as well, which is unsurprising to literally every single person around me. But I was like, wow, there's that. Mum was like, that explains a lot, darling. Um, and so a lot of different bits does very much overwhelm me. Like life admin will just start stacking up, and then I'll go into just a type of overwhelm that doesn't feel good. So that's why over all these years of teaching, it's been about simplifying life. Like, take it off the agenda if it can be off the agenda. I literally cannot cope with my own life if there's too much expected of me, like at a constant basis. And I think, being a creative person, I need white space. I need it. And it just feels like it's all the time, all the time, all the time. So it's a interesting journey. I don't think anyone's immune from it. I mean, the freaking WhatsApp groups that I'm a part of because of school and sports groups, and everyone's birthday party has a WhatsApp group. And even that's just enough to be like, shut
Yeah. Yeah. One of our mutual colleagues, friends, Dr. Christy Goodwin, talks
up.
about too, like all the notifications that are popping up. It's like ding, ding, ding. It's kind of like the little tiger chasing our nervous system every time it comes up.
It's so brilliant. I know learning the archive function in WhatsApp was a game changer. Love it.
Yeah.
Like, you can beep away and I'll check you when I want to check you.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting when you were talking about your body burnout experience with the shingles and everything that was happening. Totally can see the pillar in that now.
Yeah,
Totally
like,
can see the pillar.
I'll move us to Melbourne. I'll get everything sorted.
Whilst also running a conference and a retreat for a whole heap of women who need my help to eat healthy.
Right. But I mean, also there's been a bit of codependence to unravel in my story. Let's be honest. Yeah, it's been a lot of healing work done.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's always like the onion. It's beautiful.
Oh, isn't it?
So for our listeners, I'm going to put in the show notes that overwhelm type quiz. I loved it too when I got my report because there were like the red flag signals, but also at the end, 3 really simple things that you could implement today. I'm like, yes. I think mine was don't say yes or say no to some things, clear some space. And I can't remember the third one, but I'm like, yeah, that's all totally achievable. Doing it.
It always has to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So going back to the story with your husband Nick, so he alcohol dependency and then he ended up passing away 2019.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you've had a massive journey. Like that is huge, experiencing that. And are you happy to talk into grief and also how it's connected to burnout? And if someone's experiencing this, whether it's the passing of a loved one, or sometimes just like there's different types of losses as well.
Oh, gosh.
Where people are carrying grief.
Oh.
How can we navigate this?
Well, has been a total process. And at the very beginning, it was just so shocking. He died in India. It was very confusing. And I mean, there's your own grief. And then there's your children have just lost their father. I mean, it was unfathomable. I will never forget, like, I still grieve on behalf of them too. So it's this whole big thing. But of course, I was high functioning Lisa for quite a while. I just thought I've got to get the kids through this. And I wasn't even on the planet. My memories of that time are really hazy. I do remember a few key moments, but I knew I just had to get through. I mean, I remember the day before his funeral took a month because we had to get the body back and, do all sorts of things. It was a full process. And And I was like, I got to get up tomorrow and I have to take my children to their dad's funeral. Excuse me. How am I meant to actually do this? Could someone just please come and be me? Because this is just too much. But I was so scared of feeling the depth of feeling that I had at that time that I just kind of I was feeling it, but I was skimming the surface. It was to really go there was just I was too afraid. So I delayed the grief.
Yeah.
I mean, then you think about it, COVID happened very soon after, and there was just this what is hang on, what is actually really happening here? And that was a big distraction. And then once again, I was just being asked to rise into coping with it all, like finding a way through. But there were times there that I was like, oof, I want to outrun this grief. And it is like I am literally here in my house. I can't escape it. So I started to really move into it a little bit more at that stage, but still not fully. And I think it's just one of those things where no one has a linear path through grief. But I wish I had maybe let myself fall apart. You know, I was speaking to a friend recently and she said, you never had a day where you just lay in bed. I never did. I never did. I never just succumbed to the horribleness. I had 3 kids. Like I actually didn't have the luxury to do that, but I probably could have. Like if I just was like, I'm tapping out, dudes. But I was very conscious of what the kids needed, and they needed stability and security. What started to happen was actually when COVID was over in 2022 and we were being asked to get back into life. And I actually think the grief over what we lost over those 2 years has not been collectively dealt with at all. I actually think people are holding on to a whole lot of grief that they've now just parked and exists inside them, and it is not reconciled, and it is having big time impacts on people. That's a whole other story. I know for me, it was coming out of that really feeling very depleted and realizing that I wasn't as okay as I thought I might be. And this then starting to unravel things with work and with my creativity, my ability to lead, have thoughts that made sense and plans that I could actually follow through on. It was all just gone. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to need to be kind to myself. And I really did a lot of work that year to move things through my body, and also a lot of talking and all sorts of things. That's what I really worked on. So I was like, 2023, I'm hitting it. Yeah, we're going to be ready for 2023 and Lisa's back. And I remember I was just like really talking myself almost into it. And then at the start of 2023, I had this I had an operation, and it was a very, very simple procedure, but I spiked a temperature afterwards and they kept me in hospital. And then I went home the next day and I was really not okay. For a week, things got worse before. And so I went back and they're like, yeah, no, this isn't right. You've obviously, blah, blah, blah. And then I went on these hardcore antibiotics. I mean, once again, I can't even remember the last time I've been on antibiotics. I don't even have Panadol in my house. And I was so, so sick. I was so sick. I lost a whole heap of weight. I couldn't eat. I was just really, really not okay. And then soon after that, the relationship I'd been in for 4 years ended. And I was just like, you know what? I can't even pretend that I am okay right now. I am so not okay. I don't have it together in any area of my life. And I am really, really done feeling like this. I grieved enough. Like I can't do it again in this house, pounding that pavement, being in this life. No, I'm not doing it this way again. And I knew I needed something radical to kind of shift my gears, because I had done so much work, and I just found myself at a real loss. And so I thought to myself, right, what is the most creative thing that you can think of for this stage of life that you found yourself in right now? What could we really do here? If we were just going to let it all go for a little while, what could we do, Lisa? And ever since Nick died, I had wanted to take the kids on a trip. And obviously COVID happened and we couldn't go freaking anywhere for 2 years. And last year my son had started year 7, and he's my eldest. So I knew we were going to be entering into a very different phase of life over this next few years. And the thought just sort of, I was like, you know what? I mean, it had been simmering at the start of 2023 about this trip, and then the operation, and then the breakup. And I'm like, you know what? I think I just need to go. I just think I need to book a trip. I think I need to get out of here. I think I really need it to be long enough to have an enduring impact on me. I need life. I need excitement. I need to be with my children. I don't even, it doesn't even make sense. No one around me was like, I mean, my family was like, Lisa, I'm not too sure. Are you crazy? They actually said, do you think you're of sound mind?
Oh,
And I was
really?
like, actually, no. And so this is
So
what
I
I
have
need
to
to do.
go.
And you just trust me.
Yeah.
And, they eventually, when I came back, they're like, wow, I didn't see what you were seeing for yourself and what you needed. I can see it now. And yeah, I ended up, I started to talk to the kids about it, just planting a few seeds. And then they were nervous, but curious. And I did some work and I researched where we might be able to go and what it would cost. And I started to just put it out to the universe a bit. And it was like a magic carpet ride, because these things just sort of kept falling into place. Friends were getting kicked out of a rental and were looking to buy. And so we're looking for somewhere they could just, because I rent my house, they could just like take over the rent for a few months. And then like bang, 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 bang. I booked the tickets, and a month later we were on a plane out of Melbourne. And that was July. We got back in November, and it was, honestly, I call it travel medicine. It healed me. It healed us. It was a reminder of what life can be. It was a reminder of who I was. And we saw so many different things, but we had very profound time in Croatia, which is where Nick's dad was from, and he learned the language. I've been there with him. He was half Croatian. The kids have land that they own there. And I didn't know at the time how important that visiting there was going to be for all of us. But this is what I think about grief is, I mean, my kids will always grieve the fact that they don't have a dad. It's going to pop up for them in crazy times. I mean, my daughter got her leadership badge in grade 6. And I was at the assembly and I was sad because he's not there, and he should be there. He should have been with us in Croatia. He should be here for all of it, and he's not here, and it will never actually not be sad. It's just that I needed to fully deal with it. I needed to fully feel it and express it. And it's just become this part of who I am now. It's part of my story. It's that we had a huge loss, and we can be okay. We can. Life can be okay. And you can also experience big grief. None of us are going to escape it. And we don't talk about it enough. We don't talk about, like, there's people you walk past whose lives are tilted on its axis because they've just lost someone really important to them, and they're just trying to show up and be a normal human, but they don't feel normal anymore. We don't talk about it. And we don't normalize. Like, I don't even know. I couldn't even imagine having to go to work in an office and pretend to be okay. Like, what is that doing? What is that stuffing down? I mean, I was doing it and I was living a pretty free life away from, but anyway, it's something that I feel really, really passionately about whenever I speak about grief on my socials. That stuff just gets shared far and wide because we don't have great examples of grief conversations. I think people look at me and they're like, "How are you doing this?"
Mm.
And I'm
I,
like, "I don't."
yeah, I love that though. I think like the standard answer is, oh, just look at the grief cycle. But
Oh,
you, you have been a great example of just listening to yourself. What do I need in order to shift this and move this and turn it into something that's not going to drag me down, but actually so that I can evolve and still carry it with me.
I mean, I think in the early stages, I was afraid of it.
Mm,
Like, but now I'm like, oh, here it is. Hello, friend.
mm,
I know what to do with you. I know that if I feel you and I'm with you and let myself go here, that we'll move through this faster. I did not believe that in the beginning.
mm,
The kids taught me a really important lesson very, very early on. I was actually so he died on September 13. We found out on September 15, and September 19, we were flying to Bali, the kids and I, for my 40th birthday, which was the 21st of September.
mm,
It was their first time overseas, really big deal. Everyone was pumped. And I thought, what do I do? I can remember being on my daughter's floor with a suitcase open and just staring up at mum with just crying, going, I don't, is this the right thing? Like, what, can you just tell me what to do, mum? Do I take them or do I not take them? Do they need their family or do they need this holiday? I don't know what I'm doing. I
mm,
really did not know what I was doing.
mm,
And she said, go. And I went. And on that trip, they really showed me that children and also I think adults, that they can't be in an emotion extended for a really long period of time. Like they feel it to its fullness, and then they're moving on. What we learned on that trip, what I learned on that trip, is that grief and joy coexist. They can't stay in it all the time. And I thought, wow, I'm just watching them have the best time of their lives at the worst time of their lives. What even is this?
wow.
There's no reason, there's no rationality, there's no right or wrong way to do this. And I know it must have looked very strange to people what we were doing. It was the best thing I could ever have done for us at that stage. Because when we were crying, when we were feeling it, we were all just together. We could just be in it without anybody else. And I had this sense like we're going to get home and, life is going to ask stuff of us. But in this moment right now, it's asking nothing. And we can just do this the way we need to do it. Um, yeah, there's no right or wrong way to grieve. It's not linear and it's not the freaking, what, 7 stages of grief. I don't even know how many they
Yeah.
are, but mine certainly did not. I still get angry at him. I still,
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's a crazy ride.
It's almost like a spiral.
Oh, it's just, yeah. A friend
Anniversaries come
once
along
said to
and
me,
things come along and yeah.
yeah, I had it explained to me once like waves. And in
Mm,
the beginning, the waves just like come and like you are crushed, you are underneath the wave and you're just desperately trying to kind of get air. And then after a little while, the waves are still really big, but there's a break in between them.
yeah.
So you can kind of breathe for a bit and then the wave will come again. And then the waves just, they come and they're maybe not as high and maybe you don't go under
Mm,
and there's a little bit more of a break,
mm,
but you are kind of destined always to be in a choppy ocean.
mm,
You know,
yeah.
it's just that there'll be bigger breaks and they'll be less intense, but still
Mm,
it's the ocean,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I loved that.
Yeah.
I wish someone told me it was going to take years,
Mm, yeah.
because I sort of had a feeling like we got through those year of firsts and I'm like, look at us having grieved.
Mm, mm,
Even after 2 years, I thought, yeah, I feel a shift here. And it was a big shift, but it's still, yeah.
still processing. Okay. We have covered so many different things. Thank you so much for your generosity I just love your honesty. I think that's what really drew me to you, Lisa. Your honesty, your vulnerability, you're in the space of wellness, but it's like, I don't, I'm just kind of like figuring it out as I go. And that's okay because I
I don't
think
have
we
the
all are.
answers. Yes, I think there's very few people who can sit in the space of expert of knowing all the things, because the pace in which we're all learning means that we are literally always evolving and learning and growing in our knowledge and understanding.
Yeah. So if you were going to leave one piece of advice, especially to those who might be feeling overwhelmed, whether it's they're moving through grief or just the heaviness, the bigness of life that they feel they're carrying, what would be one piece of advice you'd love to leave?
Well, it's funny because when I was overseas, I was thinking about how connected I felt to my kids and to myself and the world, and how creative I felt and how everything felt possible again. It was such a great place to be in after the years of just like, what the hell even is going on here?
Mm.
And I sat and I thought, how am I gonna take this home when it's school lunches and karate is on Wednesdays and soccer and this and that and the other and all the things. And I thought, well, what if I gave myself 5 hours a week for Lisa? What if that was just the goal? And I did things with that 5 hours that were just for me. And that it was not like, get to Pilates or something. It was like, no, 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 no. What? Just random stuff on my own, stuff with people, whatever it is. It doesn't even matter. Like, it just had to be something that would just connect me back into that sense of life being great, filled with good things, because they're available. It's just that we get into our routine and we're not looking out for it like you are when you're just arrived in Cinque Terre.
Yeah.
So I gave myself this challenge of 5 hours a week, and it changed everything. I've been to more theatre than I've ever been to in my life. I'm going out for dinners. I'm finding, like, even I'll have dinner on, and instead of just like, I don't know, looking at my phone or doing some work or hanging out the washing, I'll put my runners on and I'll go and I'll sit at the beach for a bit, or I'll go for a little walk, or I'll, have a dance party or something at home. Because when you're tuned into, what do I need? How could I use this time? I have time available. What do I actually need with that? What do I want my life to be filled with? If there was 5 hours, how would you use it? Is just such a brilliant redirect from that constant, I'm so overwhelmed, I've got no time for me, I've got no space, to, well, I mean, here's some time. What would be the coolest thing for me to do for myself? Like, just getting a little bit creative with it, just putting it out there, I just find is a more interesting point of inquiry than anything else. And I've found putting myself in new situations, keeping things fresh and exciting, saying yes to the right things and no to the things that are just clogging up your space. Bloody awesome. And we can all do it. It's not like it's, and there's no formula to it. It doesn't have to look like everyone else. You don't need your 5 hours in one go. But like that survey in 2022, it made me so cross. The amount of me time that I think over 70% of most women get is like 3 or less hours. And I feel like I'm now on a bit of a mission to like, it should just be a normal thing that we all expect, that we at least have 5 hours.
Yeah.
I know that most people are like, 5 hours? Where am I going to get 5 hours from? You might be surprised. Do a little digging.
Yeah.
Claim some time for you. See what happens. Life is passing us by. Nick died when he was 40. 40 years old. That's not many years on the planet. Like, we're here. So I just refuse to accept that my life has to be one big overwhelming mess that I'm constantly trying to survive. I want it to be fulfilling and fun and joy-filled. So there's no one else who's going to do that for me. It's got to be me who makes it happen. And 5 hours felt like a cool experiment.
Yeah, I love it. For anyone who is not yet following you on Instagram or Facebook, please do. Because I just love it when you pop up in my feed. You really do. Like, it's creative, it's fun, it's inspiring, it's real, it's honest. And I'm like, yeah, I want to be more like Lisa.
Oh, stop it. Like, come and do puzzles with me is what's happening. I love
your puzzle stories. They're so funny.
Started a new one.
Awesome. So I'm going to make sure in the show notes, I'm going to put links to your website because you've got lots of great resources there. Your podcast is amazing. Facebook, Instagram, definitely follow Lisa on those. And I'm also going to put your Overwhelm quiz in the show notes too.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you. If you'd like to give us extra smiles, drop us a review and spread the love by sharing this episode.
You can also rate your own state of burnout and the root cause contributors by taking our Ending Body Burnout assessment on our website. And if you're interested in learning about our group or one-on-one Ending Body Burnout programs, shoot us a DM via Instagram or Facebook.
Have the best day ever.